In today's day and age, a mobile app is a must. It's an amazing tool. And Kings Island has often been on the forefront of it, but sometimes fallen a little short of what could be. But are they there yet? Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are, and that's who we care about.
Hey, let's kick this off by thanking our Prestige members. Thank you so much, Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Stephen Hornack, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Dustin Jackson, Songspitz Miku, Dakota Cole, and Lack Ray. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and some tiers you can get some free stuff. Mobile app.
So Ryan, as long as Kings Island has had a mobile app, you've had strong opinions about the mobile app, what it could be, should be, what it isn't, what it does well, what it doesn't work or do well. So to get this episode started, talk about some of the biggest strengths and weaknesses that you think this version of the Kings Island app has based on your experience so far this year.
So I briefly went through it. I feel like the problem with the app is that 20% of it is actually usable. I don't think that a lot of people go on there and buy day tickets. I could be wrong about that. But if I visit a park for a day, I typically don't download their app. This is probably not intended, but it's probably mainly downloaded by people that make multiple visits, aka season pass holders. So this is the best that I could do right now as far as ride wait times. That's the most important thing. I think that's what most people check the app for and so on. I would bet you dollars to donuts that the numbers would back that up. But here's the problem with it. The wait times at least have the perception of not being super accurate.
That's been a big time, problem ever since they incorporated wait times into whatever version of the mobile app is out there.
Yeah.
And it's a manual thing, where they're calling around to the different rides and just doing, updates every, so often. It's not something that, is as advanced as you would see at, Universal, Disney, and some other parks out there, where you can almost, guarantee it's within like 5 minutes of what it says. So there could be times where it says the wait time for a ride is 40 minutes and it's 15. There could be times it says 15 minutes and it's 40 minutes. So that is a big problem with the app, is just those wait times aren't always reliable.
Yes. One of the things that we're going to end up coming to a thesis about, and I know this because we've essentially done this episode a bunch of times, but it's because things change. The app gets updated, things in the park change, the technology changes and stuff. So it's always relevant. But the one thing that we're going to come down to is the information has to be accurate. People have to trust it. The wait times is one thing. And for me, I like the wait times because I like to look at it and be like, okay, the Beast is 25 minutes, which means it's not very long. Not that you'll actually wait 25. Or, oh, Mystic is 90 minutes. That's a long line. I'm not, even if it's an hour, I'm not going over there. But there are a lot of people, especially like in my friend group that visit the park often, that would know the difference, that deleted the app. Just like, why do you even look at that? Like, why does it matter?
No, we've been there. And I mean, both of us visit so often, I know that I can look at, like, say, the Racer. I can see where the Beast Line is. I can see where Mystic Timbers is, Diamondback is. And I, pretty much know what that's going to be without looking at the app, or if they've got signage at the ride that says what it is. So I feel, just from my experience, I can gauge that. So that function on the app, while it's very valuable to someone that's a first-time visitor, or maybe somebody that only visits a couple of times a year, for the veteran visitors, and there's a lot of them, that's, they're able to tell just by looking. But the problem is, if they do look at it and they're across the park and make their way over and it's not accurate, that's where the problem is.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is, I'm playing devil's advocate here because this is how I actually use the app. But let's say I'm in the front of the park. It's not super busy, but on days when it's not super busy, like Flight of Fear sometimes has a 90-minute wait. Well, the Beast is one of the culprits with that. Sometimes it has a much longer wait than the rest of the park. So I check the app and it says 15 minutes. So I know that it's just not very long, or at least I can assert that.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's 5 minutes or it's 20 minutes, that information is valuable to me. But there's a lot of people out there where if it says 15 minutes and it's 25, then if it's wrong, it's worthless. The other thing is, and this kind of comes maybe from the fact that it just hasn't been loaded yet, but I know that we're working off historical data where this hasn't been great either. But I try to look into the future for events and showtimes and stuff. I went to July 4th, which certainly will have something going on, and there's nothing loaded. So the shows, okay, let's give them a light pass this time because maybe the showtimes aren't established. We know they're doing a Star Spangled celebration. Why is that not in the events? Will it ever be in the events? This is the kind of stuff that people, if it says something, they don't necessarily. There have been times when showtimes have been wrong in the app. And
yeah,
this sort of thing. I mean, it comes down to our initial thesis once again. If it's not accurate, if it's not the full information, or if it's too much information because some of it's wrong, then it completely makes the app inoperable. Do you have any thoughts on this, Don? I feel like I'm ranting.
No, I agree with you. I mean, the show times, that's one of the things that I do like about the app is, I can, look at that quickly and see what time the different shows are each day. But you're right. I'd like to see that listed out a little further. It's not something that, it's just around the corner before a couple of these shows open. And, 2 weeks away, and you don't see anything about those shows yet. So for me, I think they look at it as most people maybe only use the app when they're in the park. That's not true, because nowadays, everybody's on their mobile device, and that's a lot easier just to click on the little icon for the app and look at, look things up there. So they got to be a little bit better with that. There are times, you're right, that the show times are not correct. You get a lot of that misinformation later in the year, when you get to the Halloween season, where things aren't, the same, where it has, something supposed to start at 4, but the app says 4:30. You get over there and you just missed the show. So there's some of that too, but that's one of the more valuable things for me is the show times.
Me as well. I would say the show times probably more than the wait times, because I usually ride stuff on a whim, like, and Vertigo's got a short line, let's ride that, rather than like, I need to ride the Beast today, Here's another thing, and I didn't run this by you, Don, but when I say this, you've either thought about this or you're going to think it's great. They don't have the menus for the restaurants. They have descriptions of the food, but they don't have the menus listed, and they list that there are items on the meal plan, but not what's on the meal plan too.
Yeah, that's a big time miss. That's very important to have that information. I've been to parks that not only do they have everything that's on the menu at a specific location, they are also telling you what the price is at that location. So whether you're looking at it in advance as you're planning your visit, or before you go eat somewhere, you know exactly what it's going to cost to go to that location. So I think that's a big time miss. It requires a little bit of an effort to, keep it updated, because prices change and, menu items change. But if you really want to, take care of your guest and make it, everything as easy as possible during their visit, really provide that value for your guest, list out every item that you have at each location. If you go to the Island Smokehouse, down in Soak City, you should see exactly what's on the menu, and you should also see exactly what that's going to cost.
It would come down to updating that, because sometimes the items change by the day. And let's be honest,
other parks do it. That's one of the things you've always said is other parks have figured it out. So I think that
other parks have figured it out. We can't open the racer unless you don't want it ready for the next year. You
can definitely you can put those items on there, and it just requires communication, internal communication. Hey, we got a menu item change. Can you update the app? All right, let's go do that. So
that should be a huge focus of. Sorry, that piece of it. Yeah. No, complete your thought. I'm sorry.
No, but that's like I said. If you're checking a restaurant, it just has like a kind of an overview of what Tony Barbecue. Okay, you expect some barbecue stuff and everything there. but list it out. What do you have? And what it's going to cost. And I think you would really, it would really, add value for the guest, to have that information available on the app.
I agree. So I've been mentally kicking this around in my head since yesterday or so when we initially discussed like doing this particular show. Things that the app needs. And before we get into this discussion, if you're listening, if you're especially on YouTube, leave us a comment. Let us know what kind of features would you like seeing added to the Kings Island app. Like what would help your day, what would help your decision to go, and so on. We'd love to hear the different ideas tossed around. Don, when you were at the park, you might have been the PR guy at the time, but they said that mobile ordering's coming soon for food.
Yes, I was the PR person at the time, and then I was
Why did you lie to us?
Digital marketing person at the time, and it was something that that's another one of those things, Ryan, that they put their foot in the water with it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't jump in.
Right.
And where they tried it, I know the guests that tried it, the ones I talked to, and they seemed to like that idea.
I tried it.
They could order something while they're in line for the beast, and then go pick it up. So it is something that they've tried it, but there's just not a commitment to doing it. I think there's a lot of, again, added value for the guest if you can do that right.
I'm going to ask this question. I don't want this to come off as accusatory, because I think that it is really good people running the food department and so on. But do you think that part of it is they looked at it and they said, all this does is make it easier for the meal plan people to get their food?
I think there's something, to be said about that, is that they want you to buy the meal plan and that, but sometimes they get a little frustrated that, these people are taking advantage of the meal plan because they use
using
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're abusing it, so I don't know though on that regard though, that it would be because we're making it easier for them to use the dining plan because they could still get in line and do it. So I don't know that would be the reason. I just think maybe it's just that extra burden and everything that somebody's got to check the mobile orders and that are coming in. Maybe it's that part of it that just makes it a little, you just have to really want to execute that and do it well, to be able to pull that off. It's a commitment that you have to make, that you want to provide this service for your guest.
So I remember they had it in the Fest House when I tried it, and it worked fine. And then they had it at, was it Hank's Burrito Shack that had it?
Hank's Burrito Shack, yes, tried it.
So Hank's Burrito Shack tried it, and then they had stickers on all the doors of all the restaurants saying mobile ordering coming soon. First of all, why would you do that? Like, why would you advertise that it's coming soon? I think that's a weird thought process.
One of the things that happens sometimes is things get talked about, or promised before they know that they can actually deliver on that sometimes. So there was a lot of excitement about it. It seemed like something that would be, easy for them to do. And then maybe they found out it wasn't so easy. Like I said, it takes a commitment. You have to jump in the pool. You just can't stick your foot in. You got to jump in. You got to be committed to it. You got to want to do it right. And you have to make sure that everybody in that stand is trained, to be looking for these mobile orders, how it's going to go, where they're going to pick up and all that. So it is, it's a lot involved, but if they ever want to do it and they do it right and they're committed to it, that would really be seen as a real, real value for the guest.
I agree.
You get to save a lot of time. You're not in line. You just go pick up. That gives you time to go do something else. It gives you time back that you might play a game. You might go shop in one of the stores. You might go ride another ride. I mean, you've got more time on your hand if you're not waiting in line 15, 20 minutes to get some food.
I can't tell you how many times, because Disney and Universal have mobile ordering everywhere. And I cannot tell you how many. It works perfectly, yeah. But I can't tell you how many times, I'm so hungry, I'm going to get a cheeseburger from Creations Cafe. yeah, I'll get onion rings too. Like if they made it so the purchase was really easy to do, like, oh shoot, they've got bunt cake. Yeah, I'll add those on there. That might be a better upsell than, I mean, because you're sitting there. One of the reasons why I like fast food apps, I don't eat fast food very often, but when I do, I like to order like McDonald's through the app because it gives me time to like actually browse and look. Because if I go through a drive-through,
you feel rushed sometimes.
I get stage fright, right? So for me, it's almost like I'm really hungry, and then you're shopping out of an empty stomach, which is not financial advice, So if you're like, oh, burger and fries, that may not do it. Yeah, I'm going to get dessert with it too. I think that there's a huge financial upside to it from that, but you got to make it so it's easy to do. You got to have saved payment methods, preferably Apple Pay, and then have it so if you got the meal plan, it did work for the last 2 incarnations of the mobile ordering, but you have to make it so it's like, oh, are you sure you don't want to add this to it too? Like make it an upsell, and don't make it a stupid upsell. Don't make it so if you have the paper cups, it asks you if you want to also buy the souvenir cup. I'm tired of being asked that. It's actually gotten better the last year or so. But in the past, it was like August, and they're asking me if I want to buy a souvenir cup as they're scanning me for a paper cup. I don't know what their attachment percentage is, but I imagine it's kind of low. But I think there's a huge opportunity there. So food department,
that's probably the biggest opportunity through the app is the mobile ordering. That's the biggest opportunity.
The other one you guys played with, but I feel like you got scared off by the technology. Because remember they had the Bluetooth beacons in all the locations, and it would say like, oh, stop into this place and get a free keychain or something. Do you remember that thing, like right when the new app came out?
Yeah, it was very hard to, they weren't reliable with those beacons.
Yeah.
And some of it, when you did that fencing and that sometimes you would just be driving down, past the park, and you would get some kind of a message about something near the front gate. So it wasn't really, doing what it should have done, or they just weren't as reliable as it needed to be. But then you also had, the guests were getting pinged too many times during their visit, and then they would just
welcome to Kings Island. Remember that every time you visited the park, there was a welcome message.
Yeah, they would just uninstall the app because they were just getting a lot of stuff repeatedly about everywhere that every 20 feet they were getting another thing. Hey, stop in this store. Hey, go get a drink here. Hey, go check out this. And it just was a little too much, with that. I think there's you'd rather set it up, and whether you're there in the park or not, just send some things out, like the nighttime spectacular when that returns, just send out, through the app a message, have a nice visual with it. That's one of the things too. Oh my gosh, through the app and the messages you get through that, it's just real text driven, with what you get from Kings Island in the 6 parks. But like the New York Yankees, there's always there's this beautiful visual with it, and it talks about them, whether they just completed a homestand or the next homestand's coming up, or hey, it's bobblehead day. Nice visuals of that come in, through their mobile app. So I think something like that is improve. Just don't make it, a bunch of text words with links. Send a visual. Paint the picture for people. Have coaster. One of the trains coming down the first drop of the Beast or Diamondback or something, and just say, hey, daily, like today, hey, daily operation begins today. Now, enjoy your favorite ride, anything like that. But having a great visual, and then, maybe a link to the operating calendar. But, you didn't get anything like that today, that it was daily operation, had started through the mobile app. You didn't get that kind of alert. But I think that's the kind of stuff they need to use it for, more too, is to, if you're thinking about posting on social media, not everybody's going to check Facebook. Not everybody's going to check X or Instagram or TikTok every day. But they do have that phone on them. And they would get that little notification that you just got something from the Kings Island mobile app to check out. So you're going to reach, more people, by posting or by doing it through your mobile app than you really are going to through social media. So I think that's the other, piece of it where it needs to be improved, and take some of that stuff you're doing on social media and move that over to the mobile app, but just have a nice visual with it.
So I'm going to start this off with an anecdote. You touched on this, but I was in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and I know that here in the Cincinnati area, they're starting to add Wawa gas stations, but it was a novelty down there. Me and my friends are like, let's eat at Wawa. So you always order through the app there because they're incredibly busy down there. So ordered my food or whatever. Still got the app on my phone. Every day, $7.99 wings. Get your cheese fries, 2 for $1. I'm sure that would be great deals if I intended to order from Wawa.
Yeah.
But you know what I did? I turned off notifications from Wawa. So
yeah,
now
yeah, go ahead.
Well, now I'm not getting their sales message. So that's part of the problem that you touched on it. But that's also kind of like when we talked about the Silver Pass stuff. And I don't necessarily think that it's people sitting at Kings Island or even at corporate saying like, send out another Silver Pass message. I think it's that their system isn't robust enough to know who has it and who doesn't. But I would challenge them to say that most people that have the Kings Island app have a season pass already.
Yeah, I'm going to send you an example of what I was talking about with the New York Yankees, like what it looks like that you get through the app when you get a ping that there's a message from the Yankees. And like I said, it's very engaging. You know, you want to keep the app installed because of it, this type of stuff.
Let me see if I can share this. Use it, make sure I don't. Okay, I guess there's nothing in here that's particularly sensitive or anything. No phone number shared, given out.
No.
So I'll just share my screen.
I just got a better one right here that I'll show you too.
But yeah, down here at the bottom, it looks like they sent you a text message. Hey, Don, did you catch that sweep? And it's a good image. So yeah, you're saying the same thing essentially, but it's push notifications.
Right. Yeah, I think if they did something like that, you know, hey, did you see that we're open daily now? You know, it's just something like that with a nice visual of the park. I think that would be, you'd sell more Silver Passes that way than sending out just a bunch of text things every other day saying, get your Silver Pass.
I still think that there's hope for the push notifications of you're in the, not necessarily you walk by and like, oh, 2 for $1 Auntie Anne's, then get something from the Emporium and then get something from, if they just have one thing where it's like, okay, today we're going to push buy one, get one fudge or whatever. And they pushed it to everybody in the park with push notifications available. Anybody within the geofence. I honestly don't mind getting push notifications relevant to the park while I'm in the park.
No, that's not a bad thing.
It's getting push notifications about products I already own when I'm not worried about the park, when I'm out in the real world. That's my concern. But yeah, I really think that you know, the app can help you plan your day. I think the app looks better than it ever has. I think functionally it's better than it ever has been. So what we're talking about, I don't even think it's nitpicky. I just think it's not there yet as far as you know, what's possible and how it can actually be used as a tool.
It's another immersive experience for you.
Right. Another idea I had, and I've bounced this off you for like 15 years now, and I guess I was ahead of my time, but like on the main screen of the app, use that real estate for good. Why not have it so it's a feed of your X or your Facebook or the latest push notification, where if you open the app, you get the exact message that the park wants you to get. So it can be your Silver Passes or whatever, because people are invested in Kings Island when they open the app. You know? Anyway,
yeah, what are your thoughts on doing some lives and that through the app?
The idea I like. I feel like they don't have the infrastructure for it. I think that it would be embarrassing for the park if it started to cut out and stuff. I think that that's exactly what would happen. But at the same time, they've got YouTube and X and all those different platforms where you can go live. And I feel like that would make all the sense in the world aside from the app. Because it's not like those are apps or websites that people don't visit all the time.
Now, when was the last time they did a live?
From the app?
Or just on any of their channels?
Some announcement, I'm guessing. I don't know. I can't think of it. Do you remember?
I know we did, like the Orion announcement was live.
Yeah.
Both on YouTube and through the Kings Island blog. There were lives through that. There were like sunrise in the morning kind of lives that would be done through YouTube and the mobile app. You know, back at that time, Mystic Timbers was done live. Not so much Facebook lives. I think the last time there was a Facebook live might have been when they brought like the Harmon Globetrotter little. Remember that?
Yeah, that was forever ago.
Yeah, so that was one of the on Facebook, but not YouTube or anything like that. But you know, when they did the Antigatos, when that announcement was done on, you know, it was done live. So I mean, there are a number of lives that had happened, but I don't know the last 2 or 3 years that there's been any kind of live thing, you know, that they've done out in the park. And it should be YouTube, I think, where they do that. But you know, if you want to, people aren't on your website there. So if you want to drive people to the website where they can buy tickets, buy passes, buy dining plans, you know, you want to integrate that into your blog to do the live through that, and to have everybody go into your blog, your website to watch the live, you know, where they can make those purchases. But we're getting off track there.
We're giving them too much advice. Don, do you have any before we cut this off, because we could go all night. We talk about apps quite a bit.
No, I just think that like for me, I've become more interested in, you know, having different apps for different things. You know, you talked about like the McDonald's app, the Wendy's app, and different parks that I've gone to have got their apps. Sports teams got their apps, Bengals, Reds, and everything. I think that one of the things that seems to me versus the other ones is that the other ones are more, you know, like the sports teams especially are more experience based, where the Kings Island, Six Flags ones are more like it's an extension of the website for the most part. You know, 20% of it's great, but the 80% of it's still the same information exactly that you see on the website.
Well, much less information and less accurate than the website. Because the thing that I noticed about especially like the show times and stuff is the way that I would figure out that it was wrong is because it conflicted with the website, and the website ended up being right. So it's whatever.
Yeah, but I'd like to see just make it more interactive, make it more, you know, more engaging, more something that people want to use outside of just when they're at the park.
I think that they should have Kings Island trivia that you can play on your phone and play it with friends and stuff for while you're waiting in line.
Oh, that'd be fun.
I've had that idea for a while. Now they're going to steal it, which I hope they do. All right, let's move on to some Tower Topics tidbits for your information.
What do we got?
What do we got? We got if you're planning to wear your Tower Topics t-shirt to Coaster Stock, wear it on day one so you can be in the group photo. That's at 4 p.m. In front of the fountain on International Street. After the group shot, just wear those. Just those wearing your Coaster Stock shirt get together for a photo and share it on the Tower Topics Facebook group. So I think what we're trying to say is if you're wearing the Tower Topics t-shirt, try to get a group photo and
after
then put it on the Facebook.
Photo.
Right.
Yeah, after the Coaster Stock group photo, get another photo. I know there's a number of you know, people that have told me they plan to wear it to Coaster Stock. They didn't say what day specifically, but I do know there's a couple people trying to, and I think it was posted on our Facebook group, the Tower Topics Facebook group, that they were trying to get it organized to where after there was the main shot that they all got together and did their own group shot. I think it would be a good way to build a little, you know, camaraderie among the Tower Topics listeners, because sometimes in the park, you know, unless you're wearing the shirt, you don't know that somebody might be a fan of the show. So it's a way to, you know, kind of, you know, meet some people that are fans of the show, just like you are.
Yeah. Concrete work is going on in the Blackout building for the return of a haunt maze. Not yet known if it will be Blackout or something else. Look for the queue for the maze to be built in the spot vacated by Extreme Skyflyer unless a ride is relocated there or something else, of course.
From Six Flags America, again, a ride being relocated. But yeah, I mean, I think, for those that have visions of a dive coaster or something going in that spot where Extreme Skyflyer was, or think a coaster is going to be there next year, it looks like that's going to be an area used for queuing for whatever ends up being a haunt maze in the Blackout building. Maybe Blackout, maybe something else, but a lot of work going on in there too. We mentioned in a previous episode about the Crypt building, all the activity there. So, spend some time in Action Zone, and you'll notice that there's also some activity over there.
Well, that explains what they're replacing Madame Fatales with then. Because they would be down a haunt maze. They can't afford to cut any more haunt mazes.
Right. So you just activate one that you had a couple of years ago.
I bet the Blackout stuff is all gone now. I think it'll be something new. I really do. I have faith.
But it's a good building to do something in. There's been, Club Blood was excellent when that was there, a little over the top, but, still one of the better all-time haunt mazes that they've had.
Yeah. Foodie fans, be sure to try the Muffaletta, thank you, sandwich from the French Corner on International Street, served on a toasted sesame bun and topped with salami, capicola, bologna, provolone, and olives. It's one of the best kept secrets in the park. So I guess you can take a break from the shrimp po' boy for once and try. You know what?
I mean, I had this last year, a few times. It was one of my favorites, and had it again on my second visit of the season. It's really good. I think the one thing about it that's worth noting is it's not something that is they just take it off the rack and give it to you. It's not. Right. They make it as you order it. So it may take, 8 to 10 minutes to get your food, but so worth it. So I think this is something that, especially those with the dining plan, stop by the French Corner, give it a shot. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's one of, I think, the best meals in the park.
Yeah. Let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell. Don, buy or sell. Kings Island becomes a smoke-free facility in 2028. It also becomes Kings Island has become a smoke-free facility. In 2028, it becomes an ice-free facility.
An ice-free.
They can't. They sell ices.
They do sell ices. I do know that there were a number of locations that did not have ice during my visit on Sunday, which is always a little bit disappointing when after you get your cup scanned and all that, you go to get a drink. There's no ice. You ask if you can have it. Resend it so you can go somewhere that might have ice, and they tell you no. Too bad. Just fill it up. It's still cold. You get that kind of thing said to you, but they're not that far away from it sometimes in terms of it already being an ice-free facility. I know the Fest House was out of ice. There were several up by the Fest House was entirely out of ice, and then out by the Eiffel Tower. I think I had to go down like 3 machines before I finally found one that was just spinning out a few pieces of ice, and this was at 4:00 in the afternoon. Park closed at 7. I'm going to sell though that it will become an ice free facility. I think they'll always try to have ice.
I think they're running out of excuse. Cause the thing though is if one of the big parks. Now, granted, I'm not casting stones because Universal also it seems like has problems with ice. But at the same time, Universal's open all year. Kings Island has a whole off season to figure out what infrastructure do we need so that people can actually get ice in their drinks. For me, I'm usually fine without ice because the drink typically comes out cold. But one, it often comes out warm. So that's not appetizing. And for two, there are a lot of people that won't do this without ice.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's disappointing that there hasn't been an emphasis on that. And my fear is that, they've all got the drink plan. They can get another one in 15 minutes, try somewhere else. Yeah, that's I'm not saying that that's the thought process. I'm saying that's my fear as to what the thought process might be.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to some theme park headline news. So Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party will be back at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom in Orlando running from August 15th to October 31st. The event features Hocus Pocus villains, spectacular trick-or-treating, and character meet and greets. I attended this last year. It was a good time.
I've attended it too, and I agree with you. It's a great time. It's a way to see Magic Kingdom in a different way. You get so much candy too.
I didn't want to take the candy home with me, so I stay with my friend Todd when I'm down there, and I took all the candy and I hid it throughout his house. So I told him it was an incentive for him to clean his house. Not that he's messy or anything, but it was an incentive for him to clean his house because he would find candy while he was doing it.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that story. But no, I love that event. I think it's one of my favorite times to visit Walt Disney World and the Magic Kingdom is the Halloween season. And again, starting on August 15th, that's really not that far away now. We're talking 10 weeks, 11 weeks, something like that away after this episode drops. So, if you're going to go, make plans and get your tickets because that event does sell out.
It sells out really, really fast. Don, buy or sell. By 2030, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party will start before Kings Island's opening day.
You're not that far away from that either, because I remember when Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween started Labor Day weekend or right after Labor Day weekend, and now we are, mid-August. So, I'll sell that. They're never going to start that in April.
Okay. Let's move on to the listener questions. First listener question, Ryan, that's so narcissistic of me. Rick from Perth, Canada. He said, I love the show. Will you guys be visiting Canada's Wonderland this year to ride Alpenfury?
I don't know yet. I was for sure going to go, a few weeks ago, but, not sure because there's other things that have popped up, other places that I want to visit too this summer. Mm-hmm. So not sure for me, but it looks like a fantastic ride.
Yeah.
I think, it's certainly going to get a lot of attention, when it opens. I think it'll be one of the top 4 or 5, best new roller coasters of the year, depending on what your taste in that is in roller coasters. So, I am looking forward to experiencing it. I just don't know if that's going to be this year. Ryan, do you have plans to go to Canada's Wonderland?
I actually am in the process of applying for a passport so I can try to make that trip this year. So that's a big maybe, but I am extra excited about Alpenfury. I think that's going to be a fantastic ride. Yes. Niall from Bremen, Ohio. He said, question for both Ryan and Don. In the spirit of baseball season, let's talk trades. If you had to trade something, ride, food, store, etc., from KI for something equivalent at another park, what would it be? And what would you get in return?
That's a great question. For me, I would trade Rivertown Potato Works to Kennywood in exchange for the potato patch.
I would trade the Fest House for the Grand Pavilion.
I don't think Cedar Point would make that trade. Okay. No, yeah, I mean, you want to make that you definitely would want to make that trade. But I'm trying to do like something that's like with me with the Potato Works and Rivertown Potato. I mean, the apple's kind of a thing, small little food stand thing. But you're talking about, giving somebody a facility that opened in 1982 for something that's just on a scale above anything else that you see at any of the other 6 parks.
Okay. How about this? The Fest House plus 2 prospects from Six Flags America for the Grand Pavilion.
Okay, there you go.
See, I told you. It's the art of the deal. The art of the deal. All right. Brandon from Cincinnati, Ohio said, why did you choose Hollywood Nights over Coaster Stock? It seems like the godfather of Coaster Stock would want to be at Kings Island to see how the kids who inherited the event are running things. Well, Father, why did you choose Hollywood Nights?
Well, I mean, first of all, last year I had a fantastic time at Hollywood Nights. Those night rides on the Voyage, tremulous night rides, I might add, off the charts good. A lot of really good people, attend that event annually every year. So I got to spend a lot of time with, some of those people last year. I'm a big wood coaster fan. So they've got the legend Raven turns 30 this year. Track work was done on that ride too, along with the Voyage. It's running fantastic. The food was really good too. The tours, going behind the scenes of things like the Voyage, places that you don't get that opportunity all the time. I've done hundreds of Beast tours in that. So for me, it just was something that, just because of my experience last year with it, I knew I wanted to do it again. Before I even left the event last year, I was like, as soon as tickets go on sale, I want to make sure that I'm able to try to attend this event again. I mean, it's a really hard ticket to get. So I feel fortunate that I'm going to be able to go. Ryan, you're going to go with me. So I think we're going to have a good time. And I think anybody that goes to Coaster Stock, in terms of how the kids that inherited, they were left with everything on a silver platter, in terms of how to execute the event. So there shouldn't be anything that goes wrong. It should be well run and well organized. And like I said, everything was left, right there for them, the blueprint on how to do this event. So it shouldn't really matter, who's running it. And a lot of that always had to do anyway with the people out in the park. So the different, the rides, the ride operators, the ride supervisors, the catering team, admissions, entertainment, everybody else, is why that event at Kings Island was so successful. And those people are still in place there.
And I'm choosing Hollywood Nights because you invited me. And you didn't invite me to Coaster Stock. You invited me to Hollywood Nights. No. Hey, I've been to a couple Coaster Stocks. The only Hollywood Nights I've been to is 2006. But this year particularly, I probably would have gone anyway because they do like movie themes and stuff.
They always have themed events. Yeah, that adds to the fun of it.
They're doing Beetlejuice this year. That's my favorite.
And you've also got outside of those wooden coasters, you got Thunderbird.
Oh my!
You've got
Thunderbird.
Yeah, you love Thunderbird. I know. Good Gravy, is there. And it's just like I said, it's just a well run event too. But I just had, like I said, last year was one of my favorite things of the year was being able to go to Hollywood Nights, be able to do that event. I went to the Ace Spring Conference too at Kings Island. That was a great event. So I like being able to participate in those. There's some other ones I want to do this summer too. Some of the, like Great Ohio Coaster Club has a couple of different events I want to go to. So it's always good, the camaraderie, the like-minded people all gathering together. You can't beat that, whether you're, no matter what park you're at when you have those events.
Jim from Cincinnati sent us a book. Okay. Jim from Cincinnati, greetings from planet Earth. Why would he say he's from Cincinnati and planet Earth?
I don't know.
I guess that's fair.
Earth, or maybe he's saying we're not from planet Earth, that we're out there too far. I don't know.
Oh, that's true. That's why there's such a delay. It says, I hope this message finds you well. My question is this. What do you consider the greatest decade for Kings Island? 70s, 80s, 90s, the aunts, or the 10s? Even though I'm a child of the 70s, I will say that the 10s is the best decade for KI. The world-class rides created the upper level of quality for food choices, introduction of dining and drink plans, and other add-ons. The money invested towards the development and infrastructure of the park so families can enjoy the deck for decades to come. The level of live entertainment experiences went to the next level with Origins too, Phantom Theater and other productions. Winterfest returned to rave reviews, and Coaster Stock was born and grew and became a must-do event in the coaster community. It's also worth noting that the 2010s were the first decade since the 70s that Kings Island did not change ownership, sending warm regards and a friendly wave across the fountain. Which decade?
Well, since I've experienced them all, I think I can give a real good answer here. For me, it was the 1980s.
Okay.
The Beast was brand new. Vortex debuted. The Backwards Racer was introduced. Entertainment, I think, was at its peak in the late 70s. Throughout most of the 80s, you had shows, Broadway style shows like Celebration, Gotta Dance. If you liked shows like Phantom Theater that they had past few years ago. Those shows in the Kings Island Theater back in the 80s. I mean, those were amazing. Like I said, very, very well done. A lot of money, poured into those. Then you look at like the Showplace Theater. Every year, the pop show was really good. The country show was really good. You had live bands for both of those shows.
Yeah.
The bandstand had a show with a live band, so you had that too. The Fest House had shows. Some years you had ice skating even in the Fest House, was a show, a couple of times. But Woodchopper's Ball was a show. So entertainment, clown band ran around the park, added, the atmosphere. They just added so much to the atmosphere at Kings Island. It was just such a magical, feel when you came through the front gates in the 1980s. And, again, from like entertainment to rides, the food is better today. I'll give it that across the board than it was in the 1980s, but they had their spots. The Columbia Palace with the fried chicken, was a great meal that you could get. Yeah, so for me, it was, that to me was the glory years, was the 1980s, just because there was, you talk about so much to see, so much to do. I mean, there was entertainment around every corner. It was year long. It wasn't one of these times where you would go and, from the middle of July to the end of the season, the Kings Island Theater was dark, or the Showplace was dark until mid-June, from the start of the season. You didn't have any of that. I mean, it was season long with a lot of these shows. The only one that had a short run was the country show, and that was, from Memorial Day to Labor Day. The show in the Kings Island Theater was opening day all the way through Labor Day. So I think at that point in time, I think just from a value standpoint and everything, I just felt, for me, those were the best years as a pass holder.
Awesome. I'd have to say like the 2009 to like the early Cedar Fair stuff. To me, that was kind of the best era for the park, because that went from a company that didn't care about the park to a company that relied on the park. So that was a good era. Now, I would say that my favorite season ever, and I've said this before, was 2022 with the 50th anniversary. That was such an incredible season. But yeah, I would say 2009 to 2014 or so, that kind of era was one of the better ones.
Yeah, and it's like 70s and 80s though too. I mean, just depending on what area associates worked in, they wore the uniforms that fit that theme. So if they were in Oktoberfest, they wore that. If you were in Rivertown, you wore that kind of look. Coney Mall had another look. So I think that really added a lot of charm to the park that's no longer there.
Yeah. And if you've got your own questions, you can send them to Don, not to me. Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. If you're anti-email like I am, on our X, send us a direct message, tower_topics. Send your name, city you're from, brief question. We'd love to answer as many of them as possible. While you're there, give us a follow. Don, tell them about the t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts, if you would like to acquire one of those, easy to get. Just $22, includes shipping, comes in what we'll call a wicked green. If you would like one, just through those addresses that Ryan just gave out through our X or through my email, just send it to us, put on the subject line, Tower Topics t-shirt, and just make sure you include what size that you want, your mailing address, and we'll send you the QR code. And once the transaction goes through, just takes a few days to get your shirt.
Yeah, $22 including shipping. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.